literally saw who I now know as Jesus, and kind of just understood love and his love for me. And I'm not a religious person at all. But I ended up, knowing, like, just having this feeling really early on.
Dr. Sharnael, thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is mine. I'm very happy to be with you today.
You are a naturopathic doctor, quantum scientist, linguist, and theologian, integrating these disparate wisdoms into one language of miracles. And I would like to start our discussion with one of these keywords, theologian. How deep did you go on the subject and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I had an experience at 4 years old, which was kind of interesting because my parents did not go to church or anything. There wasn't God wasn't a topic in our household. Like, we didn't pray, or there wasn't anything for me to see to understand that. But on Easter Sunday, when I was either 4 or 5 years old, I had this crazy encounter that it's hard to make it. You can't make it up because I had no grid for even knowing what this was about. But I literally saw who I now know as Jesus, and kind of just understood love and his love for me. And I'm not a religious person at all. But I ended up, knowing, like, just having this feeling really early on that I wanted to be like that. I wanted to have some sort of avenue where I could help people learn to understand that they were also loved, and to really embody that. And it wasn't until I moved. My dad was military, so we moved all over. And when we got to the South, that was the first time, the South of America, I mean, North America, but the South of North America. We came down here in the 80s, and it was pretty religious, to be honest. And I would never experienced, anything like that, where people would go to church 3 times a week and, read their Bibles. And I remember somebody was like, "Hey, are you saved?" And I was like, "You mean like I almost got in a boating accident and then someone got me really fast at the end?" It was like, I didn't understand the terminology. Um, but I was also a person who really enjoyed having friends. And people kept asking me to go to church, and I ended up going to church at the time, and really got a Bible for my first time and everything, and was like, just jumped fully into, just really wanted to read this book all the time. And that that kind of definitely reminded me of my experience and really understanding who this guy is. And then I did end up going to Bible school, and I went to seminary. And I mean, I went as full on, and I did do ministry for almost 20 years, ministry in the aspect of being a part of, like, religious circles. I don't consider myself religious even now, and I'm not a part of any organized religion. And I actually don't even believe in a lot of the stuff that was told to me over the years. I ended up actually leaving seminary after a couple dreams that led me to go. And I had to do some deprogramming a little bit, just for me. And I know everyone's path is different, and I enjoy and celebrate everyone where they're at. But for me, I'm not a big fan of the division and the religious aspects of actual religion. I'm more, I guess, spiritual. I don't know what to call it, really. So
Yes, I understand. And did this curiosity lead you to the path of going to the root of, let's say, old scriptures, like reading them in the native language Aramaic? Or you just stayed at that level of the Bible in the form we all know it?
yeah, I haven't read the Aramaic. I probably have every translation possible, but that one. Um, the NIV and the Message and the, NASB. And, I'm a word sleuth. Like I really love words. And so the Blue Letter Bible, where it goes back to the Greek and, the Hebrew, that's about as far as I got. But I did really enjoy, and I did enjoy that, and I guess that's kind of the part too that led me to see how much the Bible has been changed. um and how like it would say one thing in this version, but then if you go to even the Greek or the Hebrew, it really means the whole different thing than what was presented and what was programmed, within us, regarding like women and men in ministry, women in ministry, or the tithing, or just a lot of different things that were presented one way in the specific religion that I was in versus the way I think God really sees things. And also I am not an expert, and I don't claim to know everything, and I am open to being wrong and changing my mind in 10 minutes after more evidence is given. So because I've been wrong so much, and I spent a whole, almost 20 years believing a lot of things that I don't believe anymore. So, you know what I mean? I'm very fluid in that. I don't, how about you? What is your take on all of it?
I often discuss with my guests about exactly the same subject and how the Bible was modified over the centuries just to fit a certain era or leader or conqueror. And everyone refers to the King James Bible, 1611. And then they say, yes, he wrote it based on the flavor of the time. So even that one cannot be counted as the source, but the legal system takes that Bible in consideration. So if you go in court for a common law case or even civil law case, you can still rely on that Bible, take it in and show it to the judge and say, based on this version of the Bible, so, then you can make your case. But I talked to experts who really went down the rabbit hole, and they learned Aramaic, and they translated from the Aramaic. And the words, of course, are totally different because at that time, the Greek language didn't have an equivalent for the Aramaic meaning. And in Aramaic, the same word has multiple meanings. So again, the Greeks or the Latin language choose the one that fit that timing. So again, it's very tricky. And in my discussion with previous guests, we discussed why the church doesn't want to revise the Bible to bring it up to a much more normal and versatile and accurate version. And of course, the answer is the same because of control and because the base of the church, and yes, and the money, yes, the foundation is based on that version and on those beliefs. So maybe in our lifetime something will change, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought that up about the different translations. And let's not also forget all the books that were taken out. Like the Book of Thomas is, I mean, or Enoch, so much supernatural things happen in those books, bilocating and transportation and manifesting, a lot of quantum physics in those books. And I look at all of the Bible as quantum physics. I just love science. And so I think that some of these ancient texts actually confirm science. And people have, when I started really going down this path, a lot of people just thought, oh, blasphemy, she's a witch, she's leaving the ministry, all kinds of name calling and weird stuff, especially because I started going into naturopathic medicine. And so they looked at herbs and oils as like witchcraft. And I was just like, it's actually in the Bible, first of all. And second of all, it is the actual medicine before there was pharmaceuticals, and pharma actually means witchcraft. It comes from, you know, the word witchcraft. And so that's kind of another reason why I was just like, you know, I'm out, bye, see ya. I just couldn't sit within people's mindsets like that. And but yeah, talk about the Book of Thomas and some of the, I mean, this is like teaching us our power and our abilities and our technology, and they completely took it out.
Yes, and even Jesus or Yeshua says a lot of things about the power within, and the priesthood disregards that totally, or they misinterpret it, and they don't want us to dig deeper into that concept. And you mentioned what you are practicing on these days with the herbs and naturopathic healing. And before we went live, you mentioned about Newfoundland and your kids living there. I recently met a couple from Newfoundland, and they are First Nations, and they were telling me the way they forage in the forest and they find the healing herbs, and how the doctors hate them because they go to the doctor will say, I'll give you this chemical pill for what you have. And they say, no, doctor, thank you for telling me what you think the symptom is. I will take care of it. And then they go in the forest, they find the right herb, they mix everything together, and they are healed. And it's just a beautiful story from someone which is in such a deep connection with nature.
I love that. I love that. You know, you didn't share that part, but I mean, I have books and books of, you know, different, and my husband's even crazier. Like he can identify if he sees a plant or a leaf or anything, he can tell you exactly what it is, if you can eat it or not, if you can, if it's poisonous. He knows all the trees. Um, I know a lot more about like essential oils and different oils and what they do with phenols and sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes and how they work on the brain and the limbic system and the body. But I think us two together, and then even what you're explaining, like this should be a normal. This is what people did back in, you know, regular, sorry about that. My cat is down here. This is what people did when they lived, you know, out, I don't know, years ago. This was actually just normal medicine, and somehow we got away from it. And there's, you know, commercials after commercials. If anyone watches TV, of all of these, you know, pharmaceuticals, like the doctors aren't even taught any of this natural stuff. And it's like, why are we going to these doctors? I get the diagnostics. I can understand why someone would maybe go because they have a certain amount of, you know, equipment that can tell you an X-ray or, you know, something, MRI if you need it, or test lab work to get blood work or something. But other than that, unless you need a surgery, I don't see a need for a doctor.
I agree with you. And the other day, I walk into a store to buy a new suit, and the guy was, scanning the product and everything else, the items, and he said, "Don't do you want to purchase a pair of boxing gloves?" It was like a trinket. Because this money goes to for cancer research. And I said,
No.
you know what? No, that will never end because it goes to line up pockets of big CEOs. And if you want to end up cancer, you just look at the food, eliminate all the junk food and the sugar, and the cancer rate will drop by 60-70% within months. And then you take care of the remaining ones. And I said, I can name 6 or 7 ways of healing cancer, which have nothing to do with chemotherapy. And the guy looked at me like I was crazy, but he said, "Oh, that's interesting." And the discussion ended there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I get mad too because almost everything if you tap a credit card, it'll tell you you want to do this for breast cancer, if you want to do this for whatever. And it's like, or they have these like runs in America. I don't know what they do in Toronto, but they have like walks for cancer, and they get the ribbons out and a whole month of celebration of it. And it's putting so much like on a quantum physics level, that's putting the focus on the disease or the dis-ease instead of the cure, which, you know, one of my decrees is I see cure everywhere I go. I see cure everywhere I go. I don't want that to be my focus because the media is actually causing people to create more just by putting their eyes on it and their attention on it. But Yeah, you know why they I know you know why, but for the people watching, there's so much money in these research grants. I mean, it's insane the amount of money that goes to these grants to look for the research. But you're right, since the 30s and the 40s, we've had multiple ways to reverse cancer. And I help people do that all the time. I did it in myself, and I help people do it now, and they don't use chemo or radiation. There are so many different natural ways. And then there's even biohacking ways as far as electronics, with oxygen and hyperbaric
Yes.
and ozone and all of and then keto. I have a whole book on keto. And I know that a lot of people are going carnivore now. But doing ketosis, getting out of the sugar, we are not meant to be in a sugar society. But pretty much everything on the shelf is carbs and sugar. I mean, try to do keto, and when you start looking at the labels and realize how much they're putting in everything, I mean, it's insane. But I'm really hoping with Robert Kennedy coming back to the States and jumping in and doing something about all the additives and the GMOs and the pesticides and the herbicides and the stuff in the water. And I'm hoping that we can see some changes in America, and maybe we can make America hot again. They say make America great
Healthy
again,
and
make America
healthy. Yeah.
healthy again. Maybe we can make America hot again. Because back in the 90s, before they made all these big changes with GMOs and all these modified everything, if you saw pictures of what an average American was, we didn't look the same. It was a lot different. We were a lot cleaner, a lot healthier. And now it's almost like they celebrate obesity. Like they have these like parades and pageants, and put someone that's 300 pounds on the cover of a magazine and say that they're the hottest person, and it is like, that is so unhealthy. I mean, I'm not saying anyone's ugly or pretty, but I just don't understand celebrating someone who has dis-ease and is healthy. Like, let's help them get back to their God-given self. We're not meant to be that unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's common sense that if you are overweight, you cannot be healthy. Something is wrong in your body with your diet. And I think everything goes back to the silver lining of this channel, higher consciousness. And I recently received Seeding Consciousness book by Tricia Eastman, in which she talks about, sacred plant medicines, how she got initiated in plant medicine, and all the steps one can take to get purified and increase his or her consciousness. And then you see things differently. You'll understand that your diet is not the right one. You have to make changes in your lifestyle. You have to be yourself, find your voice, be authentic, which recently I learned that is the highest vibration, maybe higher than love. So there are all these interesting things that we can learn on a daily basis if our consciousness is at a different level.
You are speaking my language. I talk about consciousness and authenticity versus love all the time. And I was actually really, really shocked because I've been doing this for 20 years. And when I found out authenticity was higher than love, you could have knocked me over with a feather. But my theory on this is actually, if and when we are authentic, that is the highest form of love, because we're loving ourselves by staying in our truth, and we're also loving our world and our consciousness by staying and holding that space of love unconditionally, of being yourself, myself, completely authentically, is loving me the way I am and loving you the way I am and presenting myself as an embodiment of love. And that's what I think God is. God is true. God is love. And I've had several encounters about that. And so that's cool that you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
And thank you for that amazing connection. And also you answer now a question which I usually keep for the end of the show. What is God to you? So we crossed that that question now. Thank you for answering. And Dr. Sharnael, I know, because we talk about diet, I know you had some bad diet choices in the past. how hard was for you to make that change, and what would you suggest to those listening and they are struggling with their diet?
You are so good at this. Great, really great questions. Seriously. So I'll be so honest with you. I struggled with an eating disorder for 17 years. I was very anorexic for a good while. And just, I even worked in a psych unit in the eating disorder ward, just to get tips. I mean, it was bad, very bad. I was down to 98 pounds. I read a book by Og Mandino, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, about how difficult it is to actually conceive a baby and all of the things you got to go against to actually be here on the planet, and all the things you overcome in conception to be the one that gets picked to come here. And when I read that, I just bawled, I cried. I realized I am actually here for a reason. Why am I trying to kill myself? Because cancel clear, because eating disorders is just a slow death. It's a slow suicide. And so I got back to normal. I found myself and maybe overdid it a little bit. I got a little too happy with my food choices. And especially when I was in ministry, I was traveling quite a bit. I was on 6 planes a week for about 17 years. And traveling, back then, especially, the food choices weren't the best. um, you know, gas station food in the States is not the same as gas station food in Europe, or a lot of other countries that I've been to, that have real choices on the side of the road, or, where you go get gas or whatever. Like, they have real fruit and real good things for you, fresh meat, even. Like, you just cut it up and make it right in front of you, right on the streets. And I found myself, this is the diet you're asking about. My actual diet in that time period was mostly Coca-Cola, Doritos, and Rice Krispie bars. It's disgusting. Please don't judge me. I am not, but I'm being honest. I mean, I can remember being pregnant, and like, I wouldn't even wait for the bars to be made. I would literally stick butter, marshmallows, and Rice Krispie bars in a microwave, which I don't even use a microwave anymore. Mix it all up and eat it like cereal. Like, that was several times a day. And I found myself about 80 pounds heavier than I am right now, and very sick. I was on 33 different meds. You talk about how that correlates. Pretty,
Yes.
pretty interesting correlation there. And it's not a coincidence. That's usually how it works. Is you're overweight, you got to get on some medicine because you're starting to ache and have pains, and your insulin and all the things, right? So I couldn't figure that out yet for some reason. And my major, my undergraduate, was wellness and kinesiology. I worked in cardiac rehab. I worked in the gyms. I was a personal trainer. I taught aerobics. You'd think I would know better. I did all of this before I went on that path of ministry. You would think something would connect here, like, this is not the good path for me. But I just didn't at the time. And when I started to really hit rock bottom, um, of just not feeling well. And then I would be on one medicine and I'd have to take another one because of the side effects with that. One medicine again, and there were more side effects. So I had to take this to offset that. And it just became this mental gymnastics of all the medicines I had to take and what time and when together and when not together. And I was just tired of it. And I guess something switched in me. And I heard about the keto diet. Back then it was Atkins. And, I was like, you know what do I got to lose? And I was a little bit nervous about, not going too far with the anorexia situation. And I will say too, I was pregnant. I got pregnant when I was sick with anorexia. And I think when she moved, that was another thing of, like, life, and that in combination with the book. So I didn't want to go back to that, like, because I valued my life. but I wanted to find some balance. I mean, I had went on the other side of the pendulum here. I mean, I just took a big sweep, and I'm very black and white. I'm not great at gray. And so I jumped in, I went keto, and at the beginning, I will tell you, it was rough. No joke. Mentally, emotionally, physically, the first little bit of time. But you know what? As you and I both know, once you get into ketosis, you don't want to get out. It's like I got my brain back. I had so much energy, my ATP, my hormones were balancing. It raises testosterone. So when you work out, you actually get muscles as a girl. I mean, you guys have the advantage of that testosterone thing, but mine had tanked. And so like, yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, during the sea, I won't say the last 4 years of the things that have been made up about the dis-ease going on and the stuff in the arm. Um, I kind of fell off again, and not to the 80 pounds, but about 30, which is not a good thing. And I wasn't sick about it. I wasn't having the stuff going on with that as far as like illness, but I just didn't feel great. And I just got back on in October. I made the choice because I realized the common denominator of what would keep me out of ketosis was alcohol. I would be fine, but if I would drink a glass of wine at dinner, it would make me want to eat more, and then it would kick me out of ketosis. And I don't know why I didn't put it together, but one day I was like, when I don't drink, I'll stay in ketosis. But if I drink, I want a snack because the frontal lobe just kind of goes out the door, and I just go, oh, I'm fine. I'll just eat, this extra piece of pizza or some more pasta or whatever. But the 27th of October, just however many days ago, I made the choice. I'm going to do no November. And I made up this whole thing of like, I'm going to do no November, meaning for me and my made up thing, no alcohol whatsoever. And I was going to go back in keto, and actually kind of carnivore a little bit, because I don't have a lot of vegetables either. And I didn't understand that carnivore, you could still have butter and a little bit of cream and things like that. So I had went to this ozone certification, and there were about 100 physicians there from all over the world. And when we would go eat dinner, breakfast, and lunch, I would say 98% of the people there were carnivore. And I was like, what's going on with this carnivore thing? And I just, I was like, whatever. So I started looking into it, and then I saw they were eating, cream with their coffee, and they're having butter. And I was just like, well, I kind of was probably doing that when I was in keto anyway, because I didn't really, eat a lot of lettuce or vegetables. And not that there's anything wrong with that. So I came home from that, and I was like, I'm going to give it a go. And I kept in touch with those people for accountability. And yeah, I feel amazing. I've already dropped like 12 pounds. I went and bought weights yesterday for I made a gym in my garage. I already have a lot of the wellness stuff, the bikes and different things, but I actually had this weight bench that's been sitting there with no weights. I'm like, I'm gonna start really like pumping iron and like really getting at it. So yeah, I mean, what kind of diet do you do? What's your
I am pretty much a black and white guy like yourself. And many years ago, I decided that I will eliminate the little alcohol I was drinking and meat. Like overnight. It was a decision, and I was able to stick to it. I just eat a little bit of fish here and there. But other than that, nothing else. No pork, no fish, sorry, no chicken or beef for many, many years. And in fact, my wife, which studied a nutritionist doctor,
oh,
did a test, like a blood test, because there are blood test um, diet types, something like that.
yes,
And
yes.
my blood type was perfect for this type of diet, no meat.
Me
So
too. I'm an
yeah.
O. That means meat for me. So which one are you?
A plus.
Okay.
So I am okay with no meat, just a bit of fish. I have energy. I work out 2 3 times a week. I'm not a big guy, so I still have to eat, you know, proportionally with my activities and my level of energy. I'm trying to do water fasting, 15 to 18 hours if I can. If I'm not distracted by something else and I'm forced to nibble on some food. But I'm pretty regimented on this type of approach. And yeah, I go on a vacation and I eat a little bit more sweets. I have a sweet tooth for certain things. But other than that, I keep my diet in check, and I don't have the risk of getting fat or anything like that. That's for sure.
So no alcohol.
No, I mean, maybe 2, 3 times a year, I drink just a little bit of a specific Romanian drink, alcoholic drink, which is man-made, I mean, homemade, sorry. And other than that, no, no.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good for your consciousness either. I mean, spirits and puts holes in your biofield. So when I test people, I can do remote biofeedback from long distance. And it shows, your physical, your hormones, your organs, your spine. It shows if you have Lyme or fungus or candida, like there's 30 different reports, but one of the reports is spiritual. And if someone has it'll show a lot of entities. And usually if I see that, I'll say, do you drink alcohol? And they'll say, yeah. Someone who doesn't drink alcohol, no entities. But alcohol lowers consciousness. And when we look, I mean, I'm telling you what you already know, but for people watching, on a consciousness level, alcohol is so low that what it does is sends a radiation of those numbers into the field, and we only get a match because we magnetize what we are. And so you literally, it's like a keyhole to open up the door of entities in your life or in a person's life, cancel clear, for anyone who participates in that. But you mentioned fasting. So I do IF and I have done water fast. The longest one I did was 37 days of water fasting.
Wow.
Like, how often do you fast? Do you mind me asking? And like, what do
No,
you,
I try to do it weekly, but again, anywhere between 12 to 17, 18 hours.
wow.
So, but I'm not too good at it. There are temptations,
Yeah.
in terms of food, and twice a week I have to wake up very early, and then I will have to eat around 8, 9 o'clock, just to maintain the level of energy. But when I made a conscious decision to stop eating meat and drinking alcohol when I decided to go deeper on the spiritual path, as you said. And to me, that was paramount. When I am going to reach Jesus's type of level of
Yeah.
consciousness, then nothing else will matter. I can eat meat if I want to, or I can drink because it will just wash through my body. It make no difference. But I'm not at that level yet, so I have to put certain constraints on what or my intakes are.
So it sounds like you're studying the same people I am. So where do you get your information like regarding scalar waves? And you mentioned Jesus is 1,000. I study with Elena and Alejandro. I don't know if you are familiar with these guys, but they do a lot of testing on different people. Have you seen that?
No, but again, I had so many guests and I've been exposed to so many modalities that I'm gaining and gathering information every single day. I'm part of Jerry Sargent's tribe, and he's a proponent of 18-hour daily fasting and
Oh,
daily meditation. And I do meditate, and I use other type of meditations as well,
okay.
plus breath work, which was an important component of the my daily practice. Yeah.
I haven't got into that yet. I did some stuff with Joe Dispenza a few times, and we were out in California actually before the whole thing happened. And everybody came home with it before the whole world did. And but that hasn't been a part of my that's something I want to get into. I just bought a book about that with Yogi, what's his name? Shoot. The guy who was with the Beatles and all of them. That
Yogananda.
oh, I love him so much. Just
I'm a devotee of Paramahansa Yogananda. Yes.
yes, I love him. And he's really high up there. Joan of Arc is like 700, even though she's passed. What's really interesting is Robert Kennedy, the guy, who ran for president and now is working with Trump. He scores 900 on scalar waves. Jesus is 1,000. I've never found anyone that high that's alive. That's interesting. I mean, that's to me, that's really encouraging.
I mean, if we consider that Babaji is immortal and he's still out there, I'm pretty sure that he is at Jesus's level or higher. So,
I haven't studied him. I don't know, but I have to look into it. But interesting, very interesting.
yes. Dr. Sharnael, continue the discussion. What other what were the paranormal phenomena and spiritual encounters that you can talk about and share with us?
Oh gosh. So my my the first encounter that I talked to you about was when I was 4, and that's when I saw this man who I now know as Jesus. And there wasn't any talking. It was just this immense radiation of love that literally I could feel in my cells. Like I was shaking, and um, there was just a lot. But it wasn't until years later in 2009, 10 area. I have to really look back. I have journals and journals everywhere. But I walked into my living room one morning or one afternoon, and I had really, really tall ceilings. And when I walked in, there were these really two huge beings in there that were sort of iridescent, holographic, kind of beam me up Scotty in and out colors. And I remember they were like Easter colors. This light pastel colors, which are my absolute favorite colors now and have been since. When I see those colors, it makes me think of these two beings. And I was terrified. I was terrified. I was frozen in fear. And I immediately heard, don't be afraid. And who they are, you know, or where they came from, literally God only knows. I don't know. People ask me, were they angels? Were they aliens? They were not from this world. I can tell you that. And there were piles of desks, these ancient scripts just everywhere, all in my living room, and I could see them. I could not really touch them. Um, and one of the beings looked very female to me, kind of almost Scandinavian, and the other was actually Asian looking. The Scandinavian looked female. The Asian man looked very man, looked like a man. And I came, they had this ancient desk that was there with them, and one of them sat down. The girl sat down behind the desk, and she opened up one of the books. I came around to kind of see, like what is she looking at? And there were just records and records and records of all this stuff. She would just turn pages, and it was like all these people healed, their names, what they were healed of, how they were healed, what date, and it just went on and on and on and on. And I was very emotional. I was very moved, literally, physically, spiritually, mentally overwhelmed. And I just was just sitting there in awe. And she looked at me and she said in her mind, not even with her words, she said, I heard, what do you want? And it was very like, almost like, what do you want? It wasn't like mean, and it wasn't really nice. It was just very matter of fact. And I said, I want to be a part of that. And she looked over at the guy, and she kind of went like that, and then he kind of went like that. And she pointed at me and she said, tell them they're not truly living. unless they're living true. And then she slammed the book. Everybody was gone. All the books were gone. The desk was gone. It was big for me. I felt it in my body. I felt like I feel it when I talk about it every time. I feel it all over again. Um, I knew what they meant was way bigger than I could even process at the time. I'm still processing. It's been almost 2 decades, and I knew they didn't mean like little white lies. Like they meant living and embodying truth to the level that most people will never even think about. That consciousness that you spoke of, of everything from who you live with, who you partner with, where you go to school, what vocation do you choose, what's your mission, what you wear, what you eat, what you drink, what you think about. Are all of those things on the path of what you're supposed to do personally? Or are you doing these things because of someone else? Or do you have some outside influence that's, making you think things or making you eat things, or I shouldn't say make because no one makes you, but what are our choices? And will we live according to that GPS God positioning system within us in our DNA and listen to those voices, those small little voices that can get really loud if we just tune down everything else? And even to the point of like, should I go to the store today, or do I stay home and make calls, or do I need to go visit my mom, or do I go to a whole different store than the store I thought I was going to last minute, or what flight to take, or what hotel to stay at, or what conference should I speak at next? Everything, when we listen to the truth and we follow that in action, and we become God in action by doing those things, we have a chemistry that it fills us with strength and immunity and all of these really amazing things that give us supernatural abilities. And when we do the opposite, when we're not living true, we have a cascade of cortisols and all kinds of really negative things that cause stress on the body and cause us to age really quickly, and our immunity goes down, and just and and that's why even in the field, this biofield that we radiate, when we're in the positive and when we are living true, we collect more positive things, and we bring more to us, and that's what karma is. It's not God doing something to you or to them or to us. It's you doing it to yourself by the choices that you make and living in that integrity of mind, body, spirit, like to be integrated in truth and to walk in truth. And so my entire mission shifted from that point on to not only reevaluate and take inventory of everything that I was doing in my life, whether it was eating, drinking, you know, live, who my partner was, what I was doing for my job, like everything, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, like every second of the day, being so hyper aware of exactly where I was supposed to be and who I was supposed to be in the right time in the right place, because that's life in a conscious path. That is living an awakened, authentic life, versus just going with whatever anybody wants you to. And at that, a little bit after that, I ended up going into naturopathic work, which I was 37 at the time. It seemed really dumb to go back to school with a single mom, 3 kids. Um, it, People thought I was crazy. People thought I was leaving the ministry. People accused me of all kinds of things. And I was testing myself. I would use people with my negative equations. I would I would attract someone to me to say, you shouldn't be doing this, because I had the doubt. And so I would use other people to test me. And then I would have to make the choice again. No, this is what I'm doing. And I would continually test myself until those equations were gone, because I was so confident in what I was doing that those equations weren't there anymore. It was just, I'm doing this and this is what I'm doing. And those tests were gone. And anyway, so that's one, but she's come back to me many times now. She's come back to me when I was pregnant. She's come back to me when I've lost a baby. So we've had 7 miscarriages. She's come back to me when I've had to shift gears again on my mission, my vocation, and how to implement my mission through a different vocation. And yeah, so that's probably one of the most powerful. And I had all these equations and formulas that came down in that meeting, that day, that moment, those moments. And I literally just went and started writing everything down, because I was so afraid I'm going to forget everything that came in me, that downloaded. And in 12 hours I had this book, The Science of Miracles. And I just wrote it for me, actually, so I could have a memory of all the formulas I was seeing, and all the equations, and all the quantum physics, and the standing waves, and the frequency hopping, and energetic purgatory, and what that looks like. And it was just all popped in. And then someone asked to make it a book. And so I made it a book. And
Yeah.
that's probably the one of the most powerful ones.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing this amazing story. And something that I realized while you are talking is the environment that's supposed to sustain and support you, the church environment. It was the one going against you, because I think, again, it's just my opinion without judgment. It was like one of its members were getting away, was breaking out into its own journey to make a different path for herself, and they were just pulling it back into the fold, which didn't supposed to be a cult. It's just, if it's a religion, it's an environment, friendly environment, supportive environment, because Yeshua wanted, he didn't want a church, first of all. Again, he didn't want a church. He just wanted his teachings to go out and make people better. Someone else, some smart guys, turned it into a church, gave themselves labels, and started the whole structure. But I hear this type of approach over and over again when someone is trying to break away, find a different path, and there is no support within that religious environment that supposed to be loving.
Yep. It's really sad, and it hurt me. I allowed it to hurt me. Maybe I shouldn't have been hurt, but it was devastating to me, because I thought they were my friends. I thought they were my mentors. I had given my life to this whole organized situation, and it was pretty much gone overnight. And I was on television and in 2 different continents for 3 years, teaching this kind of stuff. And to me, I don't know if it was money. I don't know what the reasons are, but it does seem, like I would get the phone calls, and they'd say, well, we really hope that you'll just come back, and that you'll quit all this other nonsense. And, we just really like to shame me, or, to just make me feel, just because I went back to school to learn more about herbs and oils. And to me, that was just bizarre. Like, again, that was a big wake up for me, because I really thought they would support me, and I don't know, or maybe I didn't. I don't know what what I thought, but I didn't expect that. And it was really hurtful to me. And it really showed me who my friends are. And it made me even more passionate about doing what I'm doing. I think some people might have the opposite, but I'm the person that if you say you can't do that, I'm going to do it 20 times by Sunday. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but no one's going to tell me what my path is. And no one's going to tell you what your path is. You're the only one who knows. And that's why even when I do coaching, or if people come to me and say, hey, what should I do? I'll say, well, this is what I would do if I was me, but I'm not you. So you have to, your heart knows, you know what you need to do. And I'm just a sounding board to kind of give you some guidance, but I'm never going to be the person, I don't want to be the person to tell someone what they need to do and what they don't need to do, because I'm not them. And all of us have a different path. All of us are very diverse in the way that God is within us. And I celebrate all of those paths, even if it's not something that I choose. I'm just like, good for you. I celebrate you. And even if people are still in the church and doing their thing, that served its purpose for me. Maybe if I hadn't done those things, I could have been a drug addict or on the street or, done the wrong, really gotten myself in trouble. So maybe that fear and control, helped me in a lot of ways during that time. Um, I learned a lot about structure. I learned a lot about scripture. I learned a lot about a lot of things, through that. And I could look back in gratitude now. For a while, I was just pissed off for a long time. I was really pissed off and I was really hurt. And I think a lot of people who leave wounded are really upset, so I can help those people too and say, you know what, it's cool. It's fine. It's just where they are. Like, don't get mad about it. Just be happy where you're at.
Yeah, as
Don't,
you said,
don't,
it's part of the journey. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a lot more compassion for people getting out, and I have compassion for people who are still in. And again, I could change my mind in 5 minutes if something else comes along and I'm like, hey, you know what? I was wrong yesterday. I'm cool with that. Like, let's keep going. And why cry over spilt milk?
Yeah. Dr. Sharnael, there is a concept in the book you just showed us, The Science of Miracles, the DNA phantom effect. What is that, please?
Yeah. So what's interesting is when people like, just because something can be there, like an organ, people who have like their gallbladder taken out, they still can have gallbladder symptoms, or pain in their gallbladder, because there's this, it's still an energetic shape there of the organ. Or people who maybe have had lost a limb or something. There's still that DNA. And the same thing too with metals, sheets in the bed. Um, Someone could have slept in a bed and left, and there's still like a phantom, not only electronic but DNA of what existed, of who slept
Yes.
there. I had a necklace. Want to talk about a supernatural thing? My husband and I are together now. Well, we've always been together, but apparently we had a little recess. We were together for 5 years, high school and college. We had a recess. We got back together. But he had given me this necklace, which is in the shop right now because the clip broke. But it had my name on it, Sharnael, and it was just a gold necklace. And he gave it to me when I was 18 on my 18th birthday. And when I was diagnosed, I had a voice tell me, go get that and put it back on so you could remember who you are again. And I could not remember that he bought it for me. Totally did not remember. I thought my mom did, actually. And I never wore gold. I had a weird thing about gold, but I went and bought it. I went and got it out of the jewelry box and put it back on again as a sign to me, like, I am going to get back to me again. And I'm very careful about labels, on my clothes, like all of that, because of the resonance of it. But anyway, it wasn't long after that he came back into my life. And he reminded me that he bought me that necklace the first time I saw him. He said, oh, I like your necklace. And I was like, oh yeah, my mom got it for me, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, I think I did. And I was like, no, I think I would remember that my mom bought it for me. And then he actually sent me this journal calendar of like the years 87, 88, 89. And in 80, 88, he had on my birthday, he had said, gave Sharnael a dozen roses, her party, and a golden necklace with her name on it. And so for me, the resonance of him when I put it on actually went into the field and radiated, and we were able to match back up again. it was like a signal, a radio signal that went out. And so there's memory in everything. And
Yes.
even though we don't see it, it has that phantom effect. But there's a lot more to the phantom effect. There's way more to it, but this is just a couple things. What do you think it is?
Uh, I, I haven't heard this concept before, but based on what you just said, I resonate with it because we just came back from Mexico from vacation, and we met at the Mayan village, and we bought some crystal objects.
Oh
My
yeah.
wife bought a pendant and a obsidian turtle with other type of crystals embedded on its shell, and then. And then the Mayan elders, which were at the shop, smudged the items, smudge us individually, and then bless us with water. And they said a prayer over us. So the objects, the energy of the objects were resetted through that process. And when it came the time to pack the object, they said, "Can you pick it and put it here? So I don't want to touch it, because then I will imprint it with my energy."
Yep.
So they are aware of this type of approach and the energetic imprint and everything else. And we do smudge our house and ourselves and the crystals we wear uh, very often.
Yes, I'm a big crystal fan. I have to send you my card deck.
Mhm.
I have a whole card deck. If you give me your address, I'll send it to you. But I'm a big fan of crystals too. And
Thank you.
it shows like what they do on the back on mind, body, spirit, and then also gives you a decree that matches and the companion oils for essential oils that are in equal frequency, and the decree or the mantra that's equal frequency. So when you use this like in your backpack or your car or bring it with you, it carries a resonance, um, which is interesting. I mean, all words actually carry resonance too, but you're right. Crystals record. They record. That's the difference between oils. An oil won't record, but you can put an oil on and then carry it. Well, this is too big to carry around, but if you had a smaller crystal to carry around, the crystal can actually record the oil and it carries the resonance of the oil longer in on your body in your field because they record. And that's why they use these for medical devices. They use them in your phones and TVs and cars, and because they're really good at recording. So you
Yeah.
do have to clean a lot.
We also know that water records, and it
Yeah.
was proven, and I wrote about this extensively in my book. So yes.
Yes, awesome. I'll
Yeah, I
have
will
to get a
send you
copy of
my
your book.
books also, so you
I'll
will.
send you
Yeah.
my book. I definitely want to get your book. That would be beautiful. I would love to read your book.
Thank you, Dr. Sharnael. If you would have the power to give humanity a gift more than what you are doing right now, what would that be?
Gosh, if I could say abracadabra, I would love for the world to live their individual mission with courage and ease and all the things they do. Like the two beings that I had that encounter with, the girl, her name was True, and the guy's name was Living. So my entire purpose has become living true and teaching people how to live true or how to remember living true within themselves. And I have a small practice here in Louisiana, and it's called Living True Practice. Dr. Sharnael's Living True, and we have a podcast on Thursdays called Dr. Sharnael's True TV. I That's what I would love, is for everyone to individually remember their love and their authenticity and to embody that on a moment to moment basis.
Yes, thank you very much. So it's all connected. If you have higher consciousness, you become your authentic, and you're gonna live a true life. So it's all like 4 or 5 words, very connected, and gives you the answers of life and living.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. And because we are at the end of the interview, any other final words?
I just again encourage everybody to live true. And if you want to go to my website, it's drsharnel.com, and I can do biofeedback. which I can see. We talked a little bit about that earlier. I can see what's going on diagnostically and then customize frequencies to send back to you. I do also do soul audits where I can see where you are on consciousness, measure your field, see if you're out in any chakras or meridians or male and female energies. We can look and see what may be holding you back as far as abundance and things emotionally. I have 5 books that are there. I have online classes. My podcast is on Thursdays at noon Central. I'm on all the social medias. I love these platforms because I get to like be in a lot of places at once and connect with people like you. You're amazing, and all your audience. And but I also miss like hugging people and conferences and hearing people's stories and looking into their eyes. So if you guys got anything out of this and you want to connect, I love like having people just say, hi, this is what I got or whatever. And I love to see faces and see your image of who you are on the planet and send you good vibes. And yeah, we'd love to work with anyone that is looking to remember themselves better.
Thank you very much for your wisdom and everything you bring to this world. Thank you very much. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment. Visit spiritualinspired.ca or gnostictv.com, where we moved several months ago. And until next time, love and gratitude.